Our project is over schizophrenia in a beautiful mind. It is by Paige, Nunley, and Nunley.
The character that we decided to analyze is John Nash. He is from the South. He is a genius. He is socially awkward. He attends grad school at Princeton University in New Jersey. Will later leave Princeton to pursue a teaching career at MIT, and there he will meet a girl named Alicia, and they will eventually have a son together. But then later he will return to Princeton and work as a senior research mathematician and will receive a Nobel Prize. At Princeton, most of the grad students were from the Northeast, so John was seen as an outcast since he was from the South, and he was socially awkward, so people were often offended because he was so blunt.
Next we have is the diagnosis. So we diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia, which is a mental illness where the mind loses touch with what is happening in reality. John Nash in the film was sent to a psychiatric hospital where he was also diagnosed with schizophrenia. And we came to the conclusion that we don't think schizophrenia is diagnosed in all cultures because culture plays a huge role in the diagnosis of diseases. And so with that said, something extremely common in one culture could be seem psychotic to people of another culture. And lastly, the stigma associated with schizophrenia is that people assume that individuals who are diagnosed with it have split personalities and are violent, which is untrue. They just lose touch of what is actually happening in reality.
So 2 symptoms that we concluded were evidence of schizophrenia were delusions / hallucinations and reduced speaking / thought effect. So an example of delusions and hallucinations is while John Nash is giving a speech about his mathematical research, he sees men in suits walking up the aisles and he thinks that they're Soviet spies because he thought that he was working for the government to crack Soviet codes. And as a result of this, he bursts out of the room and is eventually captured by them, but the audience sees that these men are actually real, but they're not Soviet spies. They were men sent to bring him to a psychiatric hospital so he could receive help for schizophrenia. And then the second symptom is reduced speaking and flat affect, which flat affect is when a person speaks with no emotion. And so when he's talking with other grad students, he doesn't speak a lot and he doesn't have a lot of emotion when he speaks. And around girls, he doesn't display normal emotions. So, for instance, when he was talking to one at a bar, he went in saying, let's skip the small talk and instead go straight into exchanging fluid. And this, of course, did not come off well. And as a result, he was slapped. And then a symptom that he did not display was the cognitive symptom of amnesia because he never showed any signs of not being able to remember anything.
Next we have is treatment. And so the treatment used for schizophrenia would be antipsychotic medications, and this is to help the patient lead a normal life. But if the patient becomes unwilling to take the oral meds, oftentimes it'll be used as an injection instead. And then the last resort would be electroconvulsive therapy. However, electroconvulsive therapy has a lot of ethical concerns because it's sending electrical currents to the brain, which causes seizures in hopes that it will reverse the mental disease. So it's unethical because you don't know if it's going to do more harm than it will be doing good. And lastly, we have situational, societal, and cultural hindrances. And so some examples are going to be if the patient comes from a low-income class and cannot afford the medication, if the society you live in does not have a doctor within close range, and or if certain cultures do not believe in medications because they believe in natural healing, such as herbal treatments.
We came to the conclusion that A Beautiful Mind accurately portrays the intricacies of schizophrenia because it creates a better understanding for the audience of how a person with schizophrenia struggles on a day-to-day basis, and it also helps to eliminate the stigma that individuals who suffer from schizophrenia don't have split personalities, but they actually just cannot perceive the difference between what is real and what is imaginary. And you can see this in A Beautiful Mind when John Nash is experiencing hallucinations of people. For instance, when he was introduced to his roommate, who grew to be his best friend, we learned that this is actually not accurate because he lived in a dorm room that only could hold one person. And then his best friend also had a niece who was displayed in John's life, but we can see that she's also not real. And then for many years, he believed that he was working for the Department of Defense by cracking top-secret Soviet codes, which was completely untrue and something he created in his mind. This is our presentation over schizophrenia and A Beautiful Mind.